Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome all the new subscribers. I do appreciate you guys. The channel's growing, and I've been on hiatus, and I feel bad because I've got a ton of cities that you guys are asking for. Remember the new format? We'll dive right into the load board immediately following this clip, and then at the very end, I respond to comments that people have been leaving, answer some questions. Regarding what type of truck, what market, things like that. I'm gonna keep it short and sweet because the video is already really, really long. I have been home for the last week. IFTA's got my account mixed up with somebody else, and so they didn't send us our IFTA stickers. We ran January and February without our IFTA stickers, got stopped probably twice just because we didn't have the stickers on. They usually don't enforce it till March. And so the beginning of March was my daughter's birthday, and I came home for her birthday and decided, just not to risk constantly getting stopped and being harassed for not having the stickers. I contacted IFTA. They try to tell me I haven't filed, so I sent them copies of every return. When you guys set up your authority and you start doing IFTA filings, always keep a copy. Always keep a copy of your canceled check. They're basically tax returns, guys. You keep those. You always keep copies of your 2290s as well. They are tax returns, and they will come and audit you sooner or later. So in my case, they're saying I was a non-payer. There's apparently another company that has a similar name to mine, and they've been confusing the two accounts. They're saying they've been sending me that company's stickers for the last 2 years. Go figure. And so I sent them my returns, and they're like, oh no, these are the returns for this other company. And I'm like, the other company is the non-filer. Send me my stickers. So yeah, I'm kind of fighting that at the moment, which is killing me because I got parked trucks not working right now. I've also been home kind of busy with PPP. I don't know if you guys are familiar with what PPP is, the Payroll Protection Plan. We are applying for it. It's a substantial help, and as long as you spend 60% of it on payroll, you don't have to pay it back. And so that's going to free up some capital for us. I'll use that money to make payroll, and the revenue that would have been used for payroll, I'm going to use to get a few more trucks out of mothballs and get them up to spec for going over the road. A lot of my trucks, as you guys know, have been in the oil field. And so oil field beats up, bushings and kingpins and, a lot of my trucks, because they've been off-road so much, you get them up to 70 miles an hour and they start shaking real bad. And, they need work in that regard. Mechanically, they're sound, but the suspensions typically need work. And so I got a couple shop guys I'm going to bring back and put them on full-time to get some of these trucks gone through and up to spec. And make them where you don't have to fight them going over the road, and put new rubber on under the tires. And I'm probably going to add another 4 or 5 over the road. And so PPP is going to help us in that regard. I've been home having to take care of that process. The IFTA issue. I've been working on the F-150 for my daughter. Been doing driving lessons with her too. Yeah, she just turned 16. She's got her learner's permit, and she just had her first. California requires you to do a certified instructor first. So he needs to sign her permit before it's valid for me to take her out, which is funny because, I was a certified third-party instructor qualifier, but I can't sign my daughter's, I can't train my daughter to drive a car, but I could train people for a CDL. At least I could back in the day. Anyway, so that's kind of kept me busy, guys. Even right now as we speak, I'm out in one of the vehicles recording this video so I don't wake up the wife and kids. My son has grown really, really clingy. I've been on the road so much. He, if I even go outside to take the trash out, Dad, where are you going? I go to bed and he comes and climbs in bed and, sleeps next to me. And the wife's telling me he's fearful he's going to wake up and you're going to be gone. And so it's been tough for me to make these videos at night, which is usually when the rates are better. But anyways, we're going to dive right into it. The format is you're going to see the load board. We're going to go through, looks like Looks like I got like 6 cities. Not in this particular order, but we got Austin, Texas, Newark, New Jersey, which also covers North and South Jersey. We got Portland, we got Atlanta, we got Bridgeport, we got Detroit, and we got Chicago. Gonna cover those, and then at the very end, some commentary, me replying to some of the comments that get left in the videos. I find that it's more personal and a little bit more interactive when I reply to your comments directly. Anyways, as always, guys, thanks for watching. Sorry for the hiatus. Just been taking care of some home life stuff. I should be back out on the road here in the next few days or so, I hope. As always, thanks for watching. Take care. All right, guys, so let's dive right into the load board part. I know this is everyone's favorite part, and it's why you guys tune in and everything else. Bridgeport is a city or a market I have not done before. I get a lot of requests over and over for the same markets. I do strongly encourage you guys look back through the videos and find where I've done your specific market in the past. Not that it bothers me to cover them again. Frankly, when I make another video, I get more views and the page grows, and that's kind of the channel grows. That's kind of the objective, right? But I don't want you guys to look at one day, one event, or one time that I record and have you make that the basis for your decision if you have a feasible market or not. Markets fluctuate. Today, here as we're looking at Bridgeport, there's 204 results. It's a Monday, and so because we're recording this early in the morning, like I say, this is the time you guys should be booking. The rates are going to be strong for loads that have to load in the next few hours, but that doesn't mean that the same is going to apply on Wednesday or on Friday. And so I strongly recommend you guys go back and look through other videos and you can see from when I uploaded the videos. Typically I record a video and upload it the same day. It's rare that I record a video and it takes me a week or two to get it uploaded. I don't spend that much time with the video stored. It doesn't take that long to edit these because they're just screen recordings. We are working on a little more editing and a better recording quality. We've run into a couple little issues with it just because of the way the screen orientation works. But anyways, this will be the first time I've done Bridgeport, but I do recommend you guys look at when you're requesting a market, especially a market that's pretty common. Texas, I've done at least 5 times. Los Angeles, Southern California, I almost do those once a week because I live here. Northern California, same thing. I've probably done the Sacramento, Tracy, Northern California area multiple times. And again, when you do Sacramento, for example, anything within 100 air miles will be included. So Reno, Frisco, Vacaville, I think Fresno's just outside of that circle, but all of those cities are covered. And so if I do Houston, that's going to cover Austin. If I do Dallas, that'll cover Fort Worth and all the surrounding cities. It's just the nature of how these settings are. If we look at the top here, it's a 100-mile radius, and I don't do it too much more than that. That's the default for Amazon. It comes up as a 100-mile radius. I don't do the circle bigger than that because a lot of these loads don't make sense to book that much deadhead. Plus, in my opinion, if we look at this first load here as we start the review, this one's a 26-mile deadhead from the requested city. Now, of course, as we're looking at Bridgeport, Connecticut, this is showing a load that actually starts in New York. And so someone next week will ask, hey, you haven't covered New York. Even if I'm not covering it directly, the circles surrounding the cities we're covering encompass them. And it's essentially the same market. That's kind of the point I'm trying to make. Anyway, so this first load, again, if we look at the very top here, it shows when it's supposed to load. This is for today at 9 o'clock, which, because of the time difference, that needs to go now. So it's 102 miles for $795. In other words, $6.61. That is a pretty good paying load right there. Your very next one is 26 miles at $20 a mile. So you're going to get $532, for a handful of miles. You have 83 miles at $320 per mile going to Jersey. You've got 87 miles at $395 per mile, also going to Jersey. You got 530 miles at $246. So $1,300 for 530. That's pretty decent. These are the types of loads I would book. It's a one-day load. You can do 500 miles in a day, and billing anywhere between $1,300 and $1,800 for the day. That's the kind of load I would book. There's 74 miles for $416 per mile. 33 miles at $751 per mile. There is a 115 miles for $427 per mile. This one is a round trip tour, power only. The power only guys just always get beat up on these things. It's 5,600 miles. It'll take you 4 days for... That's a lot of miles in 4 days. For $1.36 a mile. There's 5,300 miles for $1.30. 83 miles at $3.10 a mile. There's another power only, 5,700 miles at $1.38 per mile. There's a 6,000 mile power only tour at $1.32. These don't go till Tuesday though. So we're already into the Tuesday loads. So your high paying last minute Monday loads are over. We're looking at Tuesday now. So there's 483 miles at $1.44. So you guys see the difference? A 1 day difference, and we're down in a $1.40 a mile range. So there's 490 miles at $1.44. There's 6,200 miles power only team tour for $1.42. There's 490 for $1.42. There's 3,400 miles for $1.75. There's 5,700 miles for $1.36. There's 190 miles for $2.04. There's 560 miles for $1.49. There's 6,000 miles for $1.42. There's 102 miles for $3.50 a mile. There's 922 miles for $1.99 a mile. Now, me personally, guys, I wouldn't take any of these. There's 922 miles for $1.99 a mile. There's 5,800 miles at $1.34 per mile. There's 5,600 miles for $1.37. There's 108 for $3 a mile. There's 108 for $3 a mile. 108 for $3 a mile. There's 58.92 for $1.38 a mile. $5,300 for $1.53 a mile. I'm sorry, 5,300 miles, not bucks. There's 190 miles at $1.86, and now we're into Wednesday. There's 837 for $1.72. There's 5,300 miles for 138 per mile. And as you can see, they're only going to stay cheap that way, mainly because, you know, they're further out. Let me filter, because I know I'm going to get asked. Let me do a filter for box trucks in this market. We haven't seen any, which is, you know, it's an indication, guys. Either there isn't much of a market, or it's one of those markets where everyone books them way in advance. And so there you can see there's nothing there. That means one of two things. Either they released the loads a few days ago and people gobbled them up really cheap. You know, you just saw in this particular load board how much the prices changed because it went from one day to the next. It's about half the rate, right? And so if you're in a market where people are doing that and they're booking these box truck loads, you know, days and even the whole week in advance, they're killing your market. And I don't suggest you get into that just to be trapped. You're better off jumping in with a semi truck and playing the waiting game and getting, you know, getting yourself those $1,300 for, you know, 500 miles. That's the name of the game. You know, less work, more money. Not, you know, $1.90 a mile. And you're going to travel 300 miles to make your delivery, and then you got to come back empty because they don't have anything coming back. So all of a sudden, you know, your dollar, let's just say it's $2. Let's just say it's $2 a mile, and you drove 300 miles, and now you drive back empty 300 miles. You really are making $1 a mile. That's not business, guys. That's slavery. That's, you know, all you're really doing there is doing Amazon the favor of not having to insure your truck and take the liability for it. All right, so let me kind of go marking these off because I've been known to skip and forget and then not go back. Let's look at Chicago, and since we're already set to box truck, there's 7 results. Again, you see the low rate, $1.55 a mile for 285 miles. So you're going to get $440 to travel almost 600 miles because you're going to have to go there and then come back. I have heard and seen on some of the Facebook groups, people are using other load boards or brokers. That would be ideal. And honestly, I think you'll find once you find a broker to get you loads, you probably won't work with Amazon because the loads will be much better paid. This thing where so many people are flooding the box truck market are just killing your rates. So there's 408 miles for $1.14. All right, guys, so I live north of Los Angeles. I live in Ventura County. It's like 360 miles from here to Phoenix for me. So this load is going way further than Phoenix. Let's just say it's going, really, it's like from here to Tucson for me. I would not go from here to Tucson for $500 and then not have a load to come back. That's just ridiculous. That's not business. That's, you know, that's losing money. But as you can see, these are Saturday loads. So hopefully people are letting them sit, letting them stew, if you will, and generate a little bit more. So there's 237 miles at $1.55. There's 248 miles at $1.37. There's 225 miles at $1.50. There's 248 miles at $1.37. There's 225 miles at $1.51. Now, outside of that circle, you can see there's some Indiana loads here. When they're shaded in blue and it says similar matches, basically one of my filters don't fit, and in this particular case, if we look here, your deadhead miles are 145. And so the same way you might think to yourself, I'm not going to drive 145 miles to go pick up this load, but you will consider driving back 225 miles from dropping off a load. It's the same consequence. You're driving empty, burning fuel, wearing out your truck. Anyway, so let's remove that filter so we can see what the rest of this market looks like in the Chicago area. So here is a load for later on today. As you can see, there's 122 miles for $5.81 per mile. There's 102 miles for $5.97 per mile. There's 101 miles for $6.06 a mile. There's 290 miles for $1.58. Now this is a little bit later in the morning, and so if you wait on this one like another 2 or 3 hours, I guarantee you this will go up. I believe the window is 6 hours, guys. When it comes within 6 hours of its load time, that's when they bump up. And so you'll notice these will be a little bit lower. A trailer required is always going to pay better. Okay, this one is outstanding. You're doing 207 miles for $1,100, almost $1,200. I'd jump on that all day long. There's 1,683 miles at $210. There's 1,000 miles at $302. That's money in the bank. There's 515 miles going to Memphis for $320 a mile. I will say Memphis is an excellent market to find freight. Whether you jump off the load board for Amazon and go through a broker or another load board, Memphis always has decent freight, and their freight heads all over the country. They have the inland port where they bring containers up the river there, the little stream named Mississippi. There's lots of distribution centers there. There's lots of Amazon work there. I worked when I was working Amazon, I kept trucks really busy running between Memphis, Dallas, Austin, San Antonio, and Oklahoma City. Memphis is a good little hub. From Memphis, you can also go into Missouri. You can head up to Kansas. You can head out towards... there's decent loads going to Atlanta, but you struggle to come back. But all of those are in that nice little range. I believe the best money makers market-wide, it doesn't matter what load board you're with, is in those one-day shots where you're 300 to 500 miles. I believe when you get into loads that take 2 and 3 days to complete, they get cheaper. Anyways, I know I'm going on a rant about Memphis. It's a good market. I would take a load just to get something outbound from there. So here's a round trip, power only team load, 6,000 miles in 6 days for $159. There's 213 miles for $420. That's not a bad little load there. There's 1,000 miles for $303. 208 miles for $403. There's 739 for $266. I would expect this load is going to go up and end up in the threes. pretty quickly. The trailer required loads tend to go up more because the price is actually set by the shipper. What happens here, guys, is Amazon negotiates these shipments with their suppliers, and because Amazon has a bunch of people that take these loads days in advance and they take them super, super cheap, Amazon's able to promise these people they're going to see an overall savings, but the shipper also sets like the high side cap on the price, and when you provide your own trailer, you'll see these prices go up substantially more. So I wouldn't be surprised to see this load well into the $2,500-$2,600 range. It would not surprise me whatsoever. Okay, so there's 1,439 miles at 282. That's going into Utah. So your load's going into Utah, any of those Rocky Mountain areas where you get the snow and you have to throw chains and everything, those are always going to be a little bit better pay. I would expect that to be in closer to the $350 a mile range. There's 1,230 miles at $1.74 for a team load. There's 217 for $346. That's not a bad little load. There's 607 for $1.44. There's 1226 at $1.76. There's 128 for $262. There's 1121 miles for $211. That's going to Austin. This is now loading late. I would expect to see that go up probably into the 3.25 range. You got 623 miles at $1.92. There's 826 miles for $303. That's not bad. That's pretty good money for 800 miles. There's 31 miles at $7.50. There's 303 miles for $226. There's 2,400 miles at $310 a mile. There's $1.44. I'm sorry, 144 miles for $229 per mile. There's 720. Blah, blah, blah. It's still early, guys. My apologies. 270 miles for $341 per mile. Nothing wrong with that load. It's just under $1,000 for under 300 miles. They're saying it's going to take over a day. I'm assuming it's just because of the unload appointment, but that's still decent money. Very low fuel consumption. That's not a bad gig. There's 470 miles at $209 a mile. Here we got 1,400 miles at $262 per mile. 174 miles at $218 per mile. 764 miles at $1.77 a mile. There's 1,000 miles for $1.70 a mile. There's 168 for $1.73 a mile. There's 4,800 miles for $1.75 a mile. As you guys can see, the team loads are not where it's at. There's 505 miles for $1.93. 140 miles for $240. And now we're into Tuesday. I'm going to go ahead and cut this one short at this point, even though we only covered Monday. It's a very active market. For those of you that are curious about it, there's definitely a lot of work there. You can see the difference in the pricing solely based on how soon the load ships. I'd consider working out of that market But again, I would look for other sources of work. Most people that jump into business jump into the Amazon thing because there's an abundance of work, and they've known of other companies that, went in with 2 trucks and quickly grew to 5 or 6 or even 10. It is possible. It is doable. But keep in mind, guys, the people that did this and were really successful had to have been at the right place at the right time. Just as recent as a couple years back, it was very good. I'm going to do Newark, New Jersey, because someone requested it. I believe a lot of that area was already covered when we did Bridgeport. Someone's requesting North Jersey and South Jersey. I believe that's also within 100 miles of that. So there's no need to make 3 different load board searches when I believe this one will cover all of that in one loop. Let's go ahead and start with the box trucks, because I know some of you guys have that curiosity, and they are kind of few and far in between. And so this way they're focused and you can see what they are. As you can see, there's no matches. The nearest ones are 172 miles away. I don't believe that it's saying no matches due to there's no box truck work in the market. I think I've seen some loads in the Jersey area before. It's probably that thing is happening where people are booking them way in advance. And so you can expect, if you're considering this, you can expect under $2 a mile if people are booking them that far in advance. Unfortunately, the Amazon algorithm understands when you guys aren't giving it enough time to mature and go up in rate. They know they can price them lower and people will eat them up, and then everyone will blame Amazon for having low rates when it's us that are creating the problem. I use the example, and it's probably not a real good one, but I've used the example in the past. You're blaming a drug dealer for selling drugs on your corner, but the reality is you have a whole bunch of drug addicts that are keeping them in business. That drug dealer's driving the brand new sports car, not because he's getting a welfare check, but because addicts are feeding them. And likewise, people that are not business savvy are jumping on these $1.40, $1.70 a mile loads and not letting them sit long enough because the fear that someone else is going to take the load. I see a load I don't like, guys, and I don't blame anybody for it. I jump on the load I want somewhere else. Anyway, let me continue on here instead of ranting, because this video is already going to be super long. I need to find a way to not have to cover so many cities at once. Once I get back out on the road, guys, I'll put out videos more regularly. I've spent a lot of time just catching up with the family. So let's see. There's 120 miles for $6.61. There's 83 miles for $3.53. There's 87 miles for $3.95. There's 530 miles for $2.46. There's 74 miles for $4.16. There's 33 miles for $7.51. There's 115 miles for $4.27. There's 1,200 miles. This is a team for $193. There's 5,600 miles for $136. 5,300 miles for $130. 5,700 miles for $145. 5,700 miles for $138. 2,400 miles for $190. 5,900 miles for $132. 4,300 miles for $144. There's 6,200 miles for $142. 3,300 miles for $175. There's 5,700 miles for $136. 130 miles for 204, 4,600 miles for 147, 560 miles for 149, 4,500 miles for 146, 6,000 miles for 141, 102 miles for 350, 922 miles for $1.99, and we're into Tuesday, so you can expect to see the rates start to steadily drop. So there's 122 miles for 199. There's 5,800 miles for 134. 5,600 miles for 137. 54 miles for 440. 108 miles for 301. 108 for 301. There's another one, a duplicate of that. 483 at 184 per mile. 310 for $1.81 per mile. There's 5,900 miles at $1.38. There's 5,300 miles for $1.53. And now we're into Wednesday. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this off. Otherwise, I won't get to all the cities, and this is going to be a 3-hour long video. There is activity there. I'm going to say because of the time difference, it's later in the morning, and maybe some of the hot loads that went this morning have already been booked. I didn't start at 2 to 3 in the morning when these loads really are juicy. You know, the family was asleep, and I didn't want to wake everyone up. Because I've been gone so much, my boy's been jumping in the bed with me. I think he fears that he's gonna fall asleep and wake up and I'm gonna be gone, and so he's been jumping in the same bed with me and just not letting go. It makes me kind of feel bad for the poor boy. I've been on the road way too much. Anyway. So we are covering Atlanta. Someone asked for it. I can tell you guys, Atlanta is saturated with local trucking companies. Atlanta also suffers from a lot of people deadhead out of Florida, whether it's Jacksonville or further south, because there's just a crappy market there. And the same thing happens. Loads come out and people book them like the minute they come out. When Amazon was doing short-term contracts, literally there would be 350 contracts for Florida and they'd be gone in an hour. And so, of course, Amazon would realize this and drive the price down, and they would still disappear in an hour. Anyway, as you can see, there's no results. You know, these are in Tennessee. Obviously, you're not going to deadhead 200 miles to go pick up a load that goes 200 miles and then deadhead 400 miles home. I know there is an Atlanta market for box trucks because I've seen other people's videos. It's a matter of figuring out when they come out. But as you can see, people are booking them probably before they get juicy. And sorry, I'm not trying to change location. We're going to open this up to all the other type of equipment. There's 129 loads total, which isn't very strong for that market. I would have expected more. But as you can see, the soonest load to load is for 10 o'clock. I guess there is a time difference, so sorry, never mind. That's still pretty soon here. So you have 185 miles at $3.40 per mile. There's a 5,700 mile tour at $1.47. 544 miles at $1.70. There's 5,700 miles at $1.47. There's 841 miles at $3.20. There's 390 miles at $1.62. There's 151 miles at $2.20 per mile. There's 451 miles at 185. There's 49, actually I'm sorry. Let's call that 4,600 miles at $1.62. There's 564 miles at 176. There's 279 miles at 179. There's 390 miles at $1.50. There's 1,000 miles at 189 per mile. There's 317 miles at 187. 730 miles at 206. Again, that's going to Florida, so understand you're probably going to be dead heading out of there. You need to get like 350 to 450 a mile to offset your deadheading back into Atlanta whenever you take a load into Florida. That's just kind of the way it is. There's 5,500 miles at $1.30 a mile, ridiculously low. There's 256 miles for $193. There's 5,800 miles at $1.39. There's 1,400 miles at $1.71. There's 4,800 miles at $141. There's 496 miles at $214. There's 4,000 miles at $1.42. There's 647 miles at $184. There's 5,600 miles at $141. There's 350, let's call that 360 at $173. We're into Tuesday and the rates are only getting cheaper. As I said, Atlanta is a cheap market, guys. If you can survive under $2 a mile, so be it. But as you can see, $1.60, $1.67, $1.32, $1.60, $1.45, $1.37, $1.35. There's a block. Okay, we hadn't really seen any blocks. This one's for Thursday. Now again, blocks do the same thing that any other load does. As it gets closer, it will go up. So this is a 2-day block at $1,500. So you're talking about just under $800 a day. There are blocks right now across the country that are in the $2,000 range plus accessorials. People just need to not take these blocks and let them go up a little bit. There are blocks in other parts of the country that are, like I said earlier, at $2,000 or better. So by the time you add fuel surcharge, let's just say it's another couple $100, you're at $1,100 a day plus tolls. That's doable for a block. That's money. And the beauty in a block is you're guaranteed work. If they don't use you but they booked you, you're going to get paid even if your truck never leaves the driveway. But taking them at $1,500 makes no sense. Anyway, that's the Atlanta market. I've never been a fan. Don't get me wrong. Every time I've gone to Atlanta, the people are awesome, very friendly. I had it once where I was stuck waiting on my trailer to be unloaded, and I pulled my truck into a mall across the street. There was a Walmart there. I walked into a place to get my hair cut. It was a Saturday, and apparently on Saturdays, every barber takes a turn, and their wife brings food for all the barbers. These people invited me to eat with them, talk about Southern hospitality, some incredible fried chicken. It is the South after all. And I had myself a good old time hanging out with these barbers. Beautiful people, beautiful country. The rates are just bad, guys. That's just the nature of it. Let's see. Portland. I just did Portland, but someone asked for it again. I strongly suggest you guys look at my previous videos because the markets do fluctuate, and you can see the differences between the time of day, the day of week, because whatever I show you as a rate right now is not always a constant. So they do have some box truck market here. There's 15 available. It starts on Wednesday. So at the very least, people aren't booking them a week out. Sounds like people in Portland might be a little bit smarter. So there's 178 miles for 181 a mile. There's 159 miles for 195 per mile. There's 159 miles for 195 per mile. 127 miles for 199 per mile. 148 miles for 180 per mile. 178 miles for $1.63 a mile. 130 miles for $1.96 per mile. 164 miles for $1.75 a mile. 148 miles for $1.80 a mile. 178 miles for $1.63 a mile. 179 miles for $1.88 a mile. 178 miles for $1.61 a mile. 148 miles for $1.80 a mile. 164 miles for $1.75 per mile. 164 for $1.75. Looks like there's a few more loads out in Kent. Kent is kind of far for you, but I'll kind of scroll down through them, and if you're interested in those, you can kind of pause the video and see what they are. I have found that I'm scrolling through them a little bit quicker, guys, and not spending as much time on the details, because someone pointed out to get more coverage out of the same video, scroll through them quicker, and if someone has an interest, they can just pause the video and look at it. It's a good point. I'm trying to cover a lot of ground for a lot of different people. I'm hoping soon to get videos out more like every other day instead of like this last week. I really didn't get any. And that way these lists won't be as long of how many markets to cover. So, okay, here we have 154 miles for $1.97. That loads today in the afternoon. There's a tour, 1,100 miles for $181. 1,300 miles for $1.70. 368 miles for $163. 526 miles for $181. 526 miles for $181. There's the same thing. Same load again. There's 4,600 miles for $143. 4,000 miles for $169. There's 508 miles for $1.44. 508 miles for $144. 108 for for $3.46. 108 for $3.35. There's 4,400 miles for $1.56. 526 miles for $161. 873 miles for $1.60. And we're into Wednesday, guys. So your market's not really heavy, not really strong. And these rates are only going to get cheaper, obviously, because they're further out. So it's not a really strong market, but it could also be, if I'd have done this last night, there might have been a few more loads in there. I just covered this market like within the last week. If you're really interested in this market, go through some of my older videos. I did cover the whole Washington, Oregon area. And the load board was pretty full. This could be just a matter of, people on Friday booked up their Monday work, which, again, in my opinion, is a mistake. All right, so I covered the ones that were in my drop down. I got a couple more cities to go that people requested. Again, I've covered Austin. If you guys are interested in the Austin market, look back through one of my videos. I think I even called it Amazon Texas market, and I covered With the exception of El Paso, which is West Texas, I covered Dallas, Fort Worth, Austin, and Houston in that particular video. And I suggest you guys look at them so you can kind of compare the timing. The market does fluctuate. If you look at pricing in December, these rates are much, much better because for Amazon, it's peak season, right? We'll start with the box truck just so we can isolate them. There's a total of 8. There's 320 miles for $1.66, and that's for Wednesday. There's 205 miles for $160. There's 236 miles for $136. There's 220 miles for $153. There's 238 miles for $136. There's 238 miles for $136. There's 205 miles for $148. There's 220 miles for $153. Now, Cale, Texas is far from where you're at. And that's where all of these loads are. So if you're thinking, you want to be based out of Austin, understand that your workload is going to be 100 miles away. Then you're going to go another 200 miles. We'll just open it up just to give the example. Sorry about that. It was not cooperating. And so this is where you're delivering to. Most of these deliveries end up going to a post office, which it looks like there's their dock, and it is a little post office. So this is where you would be going to. You would have to first drive to Cale, Texas. And so you see how it's not really a feasible load, because what are you going to do? Drive all the way back to Austin from there empty without getting paid? And, the load pays, a miserable $381. You'll probably almost burn all of that in fuel. I'm just not a fan of box trucks, guys. You have to be in the right market for it to be worth your while. By that I mean, if you lived 10 miles from where these loads originate, so be it. But then remember, you still have to deadhead back. And I don't imagine, we'll look at it again, but I don't imagine that this little community, again, I said it in a previous video, box trucks go to markets that do not have a big fulfillment center that delivers themselves directly. That's where the box trucks go to. So I don't imagine there's an Amazon facility close by. So Amazon drops these off to the Postal Service. The Postal Service then makes the rounds and goes to, all of these places. It being Texas, I'll bet you a lot of the rural communities that are, the people that live out here probably don't get a postal courier coming out. They probably have a P.O. box, and all the Postal Service is doing is leaving it at your P.O. box, and you go into the post office to get it. And so I doubt in this community you're going to find a return trip for your box truck to at least make $1 a mile going back so you can pay for your fuel. And so this is why I don't think it's a viable market, at least not for the way I want to work. Anyway, and I don't know that this particular person actually requested box trucks for this market. I'm covering them because every time I cover a market, I end up getting a comment later, hey, well, you covered Dallas, but you didn't show box trucks. And so a lot of people think that's their ticket to get into the trucking business. I get it, because the cost of entry is cheap. So let's look at the rest of the market for Austin. You got 165 miles at $1.88 per mile. There's 16 miles, let's call it 17, at 15 per mile. There's another one There's a 300-mile load at 178 per mile. There's 575. This is on Tuesday now, so the market's not real strong. There isn't a whole lot of loads there. At $1.80, I would expect that to go up as it gets closer, but considering the market's pretty dry, someone might take it at this price. But honestly, I would expect that to be closer to $1,500. And then again, you know, Memphis is a good market. Memphis is a great place to get loads out of. There's another one for $1.80, and another one. So they got a campaign. They're moving quite a few of them. So for those of you guys that do power only, when you see something like this, okay, you've got pretty much the same. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. The game that everyone's going to play, and you should play it too, is keep an eye on them, and they'll go up as they get closer, but you can afford to be a little bit more patient, because someone will take the first one, and that's when you still can say to yourself, there's 3 more. Do I wait for it to go up 1 more, or do I take it here and guarantee my work? In other words, with there being 3, you're guaranteed to see 1 more bump in pay. If there was only 1, someone might grab it before it goes up due to them not having the business sense to wait for it. But when you've got 3 or 4, you can wait, and you've got the cushion of, if someone books 1, there's still 3 more, then you can jump in and grab one of the 3. Sorry, I go on these tangents, but I think they're valid points sometimes. So anyways, there's 815 miles for $1.77. There's a tour 6,500 miles for $1.30. There's 815 miles for $1.77. There's 5,200 miles for $1.55. There's 5,000 miles. This is a tour that ends in Phoenix. They didn't used to do these, but now they're doing like one-way tours. $1.55. There's 4,800 miles for $1.53. And we're into Wednesday now, so again, your market's not real strong. There's another load going to Memphis. I'll kind of scroll down, and there's multiples, so again, you could play that game where you wait. I'll kind of scroll down so you guys can see them, and if you wanted to pause it and just see what they are. Don't expect the rates to go up, because the further it goes out, the cheaper it is. Everything you can see there now is consistently $1.50, $1.60 a mile. There's a $2 a mile, which is kind of weird that it's that far out. But it is a trader required. They tend to have slightly better rates. And that covers Austin. I think someone requested Detroit. Not spelled with the Y, but I'm glad it figured it out. Fat finger moment. All right, so I'll start with the box trucks, because I think this person was talking about buying 2 of them, unless I'm confusing myself here. Equipment. There's 6 results dating out to Thursday, so at least people aren't booking them a week out. So there's 207 miles at $1.49, 207 miles at $1.49, 180 miles for $1.70, 200 miles for $1.49, 182 miles for $1.65, and 134 miles for $1.99. And then these are in Ohio. $2.40 a mile. $2.40 a mile, I think, is the highest we've seen today. Those are probably the best loads we've seen today, but they go tomorrow. You see, You see the difference? It's Monday, these load tomorrow, and they're at $2.40 a mile. When you're in a market where people won't book them a week in advance, you can get out of that $1 a mile range. That's kind of how the Amazon load board works. Let's see what the rest of the market looks like. There appears to be 100 loads. Of course, that includes the box trucks. So there's 332 miles for $2.50. This loads today at 11. Again, there's a time difference, so that's pretty close. I mean, it's 9, so it's within 2 hours. So you should see some decent rates here. There's 60 miles for $4.22. There's 189 miles for $2.89. There's 189 miles for $2.89. 189 for $2.89. Looks like they're repeating that load. There's 59 miles for $4.53. 59 for $4.53. Looks like they got multiple trailers to move there. There's 189 for $2.89 per mile. There's 332 miles for $2.59 per mile. There's 193 for $3 a mile. There's 59 miles for $4.53 per mile. There's 193 miles for $3.01 a mile. There's 60 miles for $4.42 a mile. 191 miles for $2.89 a mile. 148 miles for $3.05 a mile. 148 miles for $3.05 a mile. 148 for $3.05 again. And yet another one. Looks like they got multiple trailers to move there. There's 349 miles for $2.09 a mile. There's a tour, 4,600 miles for $1.75. 917 miles for $1.83. 917 miles for $1.80. 917 for $1.80. 368 for $2.01 a mile. 6,400 miles for $1.40. 6,300 miles for $1.39. 6,000 for $1.39. 5,600 miles for $1.35. There's 551 miles for $1.95. 305 miles for $1.91. 811 miles for $1.89. 164 miles for $2.03. 811 miles for $1.89. 4,800 miles for $1.51. We're into Wednesday, so the rates are dropping, obviously. 53.82 for $1.36. And as you can see, they're not going to come back up. You're going to be under $2 for everything else. Oh, there's a couple blocks. And so here's a one-day block for just under $700. With your fuel surcharge and everything, you'll probably end up well into the $700 range. It's not until Thursday, so hopefully over the next day or two, there's quite a few of them. Hopefully they'll go up if you're into blocks. 2-day blocks are at $1,400. Let me just show you guys how in other markets these blocks are good. That I think covers the list I had of cities. If I missed or skipped your city, leave me a comment and I'll try and cover it on the next video. once I get back on the road, guys, it'll be easier for me to do videos like every other day, because I can do it from the sleeper and not bug anybody. You know, right now my daughter has school, and she's schooling from home, so it's hard for me to record videos at the house. And like I said, my son's been a little bit clingy since I've been home this last week. And so these are the blocks, and we're going to sort them by highest payout. And as you can see, in some markets, you know, that 2038, that's before accessorials. So let's say you get another couple $100 for fuel surcharge. I don't think there's a whole lot of toll roads near there unless they send you north towards Pennsylvania, but I don't think you could get far in a day and be back the next day. So you probably won't have a toll consideration there. But if you get this for $2,200 to $2,300 for a day and 13 hours, that's a decent pay. You know, I'd take those. And so Aurora has the same thing. Salt Lake City, Massachusetts, Salt Lake. You know, these block rates are not bad. You know, when it gets to the point where it drops under 1,000, you know, you can see the difference there, right? It dropped into Wednesday, and all of a sudden the rate starts to go down. You know, now we're looking at Friday, and the rate is lower. Anyway, I just want to quickly show you guys that some of these blocks are good. The key is not to book them right away. As you can see, this one's for Wednesday. Will it go up once more before Wednesday? I don't know. I've never followed blocks like day by day by day, but that's not a bad deal. I would consider doing blocks for a couple reasons. So if I were to book this block right now, my driver knows he has work, you know, starting Wednesday night through Friday morning, and it's guaranteed. If they don't send us an email and assign us anything, we still get paid. If they cancel half the loads on your workload for that particular day, which Amazon's known for doing, you still get paid. And so I can tell my driver, you know, I'm paying you a percentage. You're going to get your percentage out of this money no matter what happens. The driver's comfortable. He can rest easy and know I got this money guaranteed in my check. That's the upside to blocks. Anyway, I think that wraps it up, guys. I know this video got extraordinarily long. We did a lot of cities. Like I say, once I get back out on the road and I start recording these from the sleeper, it's easier to do them every night because I don't wake anybody up. And the videos will get shorter. We'll be covering like 2 or 3 markets a day instead of, you know, all week long. I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Looks like I did 7 or 8. Anyways, as always, thanks for watching. Thanks to all my new subscribers. I appreciate you guys. Bye. All right, guys. So in this segment, we address the comments. I reply to the comments. I answer questions, things like that. Anyways, we'll just start at the top and work our way down. The question here is, have I done a video using Amazon Relay to go one way and then a different load board to go back? You know, in theory, that would be like the best of both worlds, where you can pick the best load going one way and the best load coming back. We do that constantly. I have a dispatch service that moves my trucks now. At one point, I was exclusively Amazon. I had 6 trucks running with them. And the problem is the drivers would get extremely frustrated. The best way to book an Amazon load, I've covered this in other videos, is to book them last minute. Between like midnight and 4 in the morning is when the rates go up, because it's within 6 hours of when they ship. The rates can almost double in that time frame. Unfortunately, a lot of your new carriers with Amazon tend to, I don't know what the word I'm looking for. They try to book like really far in advance, almost like they think to themselves, if I don't book now, I'm going to be out of work next week. And the problem is Amazon knows this, and they put loads in at $1.30, $1.40, $1.50 a mile. And people book those, like it's Monday morning and people are booking Friday and Saturday loads at $1.30 a mile when they should be booking loads for right now at a much higher rate. Anyway, so my drivers would get frustrated because it would be 4, 5 o'clock in the morning and they wouldn't sleep because they don't have a job yet for the day, and they're awake hoping they get a text from me saying, I just assigned you a job for Amazon. And then the problem is when you go to deliver at Amazon, their scheduling is the worst in the industry, guys. I mean, you could go anywhere where people say they're the worst. Like I hear a lot of people complain about Walmart. Walmart is a walk in the park compared to Amazon. You show up to Amazon for a 10 o'clock appointment to unload. You get there and there's a 2.5 hour long line to get to the gate. By the time you get to the gate, they tell you they canceled your appointment and they schedule you for the next day. But then they don't want to pay you the layover pay because they say you didn't make it, even though you've been sitting in their line for a couple hours. They're just horrible. And so it's difficult to schedule another load with a broker knowing you have no idea when Amazon's going to finally release you. So no, that's really not an option. Austin, Texas. I've covered the Texas area. In fact, within the last week and a half, I did a Texas only load board review where we did Dallas, Austin, Houston, and San Antonio. I'll see if I can't cover that again today. Thank you. I try to post as much as I can to help people making that bad investment where they're going to jump in and, possibly get themselves in trouble. I've covered New Jersey, New York. The thing of it is, if you cover one city in Jersey, it's a 100-mile radius, so you pretty much cover 99% of Jersey. I'll see if I can't put that in again. I just last week also did a video on the Portland area. Atlanta is a very cheap market. I'll put it up again in this video, but the market in the Atlanta area is cheap. Markets are saturated there. La mayoría de las cargas con el Uber Freight son bastante pesadas y son cargas completas. No creo que pueda encontrar viajes de 26 pies que pesen menos de 10,000 libras. Eso sí va a ser más difícil. I'll take a look at Alabama, see what we can do. It's really close to Atlanta, and the Atlanta market, as I stated a second ago, is pretty well saturated. That tends to keep the rates pretty cheap. I don't think I've done Bridgeport. I'll get that in today's video. Yep, I agree with that statement. I answered this one in a actual comment. If you switch from a partnership or a sole proprietorship to an LLC, if you have to get a new EIN number, you will have to get a new DOT number, but you can transfer your authority from one to the other. The authority will remain the same. your DOT number will change. Okay, this one's in reference to the guy who purchased that really nice looking box truck with the sleeper on it. He commented later on Facebook that he was doing over the road work, but he had the curiosity about Amazon. The guy's already got an existing authority with like 3 other trucks, and he does longer haul stuff. That's why he made the investment in that truck. He didn't actually purchase it that way. Apparently there's a guy in Southern California that stretched the frame, added the sleeper, and he made a really nice investment there. And according to him, he keeps it pretty busy. Amazon was just a curiosity for him to see if it was worth it, which, you know, that's a smart move. You look for more avenues for your existing equipment, right? Frank, thanks for the comment. John, I recently did a video where we covered, I want to say, Detroit. And here's the issue with box trucks, guys. Someone on Facebook has been messaging me. They do some box truck work themselves, and what they're telling me is that I'm kind of misrepresenting the market a little bit. What they're telling me is box trucks loads in different regions hit on different days. He says his region, they hit Friday night, and so apparently if I were to look at the load board on a Friday night, I would see a couple hundred loads. And by Saturday morning, they're all gone. This is also a bad indication, though, guys, because what happens is if you're booking a load on a Saturday for next Friday, it's dirt cheap. It's at the rate that Amazon wants to really, really lowball the rate. And if the market's oversaturated, then people are booking these things a week out. And the issue there is you're never going to get a good rate. The best way to work an Amazon load is to book it the day of, early in the morning. And if your box truck loads are gone within 10 or 20 hours, then you're taking the lowball rate that Amazon's presenting to you. That to me is just not, it's not good business. Daniel, maybe you misunderstood what I was saying. I understand what box trucks do. They move from the larger fulfillment centers, the ones that have enough variety and inventory of merchandise. Not every fulfillment center uses box trucks, okay? Some fulfillment centers are set up to bring what they call inbound freight. And so companies like mine that bring their own trailer, we typically haul inbound, which is from a vendor to an Amazon distribution center. And you'll notice I called it a distribution center because that particular center will move freight from itself to fulfillment centers, and that's where the power only loads come. So I'll give you an example. Like in Dallas, it's FTW1. In Memphis, it's MEM1. In Ontario, it's ONT8. And those fulfillment centers or distribution centers receive inbound freight. And so they have large quantities of inventory that's not intended for that direct market. That freight will then be redistributed to other fulfillment centers. And so that is a slightly different setup from one of your smaller fulfillment centers that is primarily geared up for the gray van. Okay? In fact, I've been to fulfillment centers where it's not even a standalone Amazon facility. They're like in Suite D, and the only thing they do there is have vehicles come in, either independent contractors or the little van that goes to people's houses, and that's all that center does, is fill those vehicles up. They don't have outbound power only. They don't take inbound trailer required loads. And likewise, the distribution or fulfillment centers that use the box van, those transport directly to postal services, where the post office is doing the last mile. That's what Amazon calls it, last mile delivery. And so the reason I say to look and see who's delivering to your home, that will tell you if you're in a market where box trucks are coming inbound or not. In other words, at my house, I see the little gray van with the Amazon logo, and I know for a fact that those vans are coming from a city called Valencia, California. And so there is no box van work in my market. My local post office does not receive a box van because the postal service does not do the last mile. And so if you're in a market like mine where Amazon has it covered, you might be lucky in that the local Amazon fulfillment center will have outbound loads, in other words, loads leaving my area, but there will not be loads coming back. So I've checked my local market multiple times. The closest place, I live in Ventura County, which is the next county north of Los Angeles. So the closest places that have dry van work is Bakersfield, California, which is just under 100 miles northeast of me. And there's a couple places in the LA market, which it's on the far side of Los Angeles. So it's another 100 miles south. And so my point is, if you see the Amazon vans delivering to your home, then there isn't box van loads coming to your local post office. Amazon is doing it from one of their fulfillment centers. That's what I was trying to explain, and maybe I got it wrong. Yeah, brother, that last load you were talking about, I'm actually parked right now. I'm having a little bit of a fight with IFTA. They got my account mixed up with somebody else's. Apparently they've been sending somebody else's stickers, and I've been doing my returns for those stickers. It's really bizarre. They're saying I'm not filing my IFTA returns, and so I had to forward them my returns and cancel checks and everything else. There's another company with a similar name to mine, and they didn't mail me my stickers this year because they say I'm non-compliant. And I'm like, how am I non-compliant if here's my returns? Anyways, I believe I did a video about a week ago, maybe two, on New Orleans. It's not a good market. It's a very cheap market. Someone asked me for that. And if you're trying to run out of Louisiana, you're probably going to need to chase work somehow into Houston, and from Houston run to Dallas, from Dallas to Memphis, and then maybe back south to yourself. It's a really bad market that way. What's my input on running these trucks over the road? So, the first thing you guys need to understand about box trucks, guys, is box truck is a cheaply built, by cheap, I mean they try to keep the cost down when they're building the truck, a lot of these box trucks originally are rental trucks, whether it's Ryder, Penske, U-Haul, whoever. And so here's the thing. When they go to build the truck, now mind you, they're probably ordering 20, 40, 50, 100 of these things at a time. So when they go to order them, they order them with the smallest engine available, because the price difference between one engine that makes 180 horse versus an engine that makes 350 horse can be a few $1,000s. And then likewise, the transmission to back that much power up, the difference can be a couple $1,000s. And so if you get yourself, let's just say they don't make them this way anymore, but I used to own some. So let's just say you order an F650 with a Ford Power Stroke at the lower horsepower setting and a 6-speed manual that's only capable of 650 foot-pounds of torque. That's probably the base way you can order that truck. Now, it's not enough power for the weight, so what they do is they put a very low gear ratio in it, which means you'll be sitting on the rev limiter doing 70 miles an hour, consuming tons and tons and tons of fuel. And so if you wanted to bump that up and let's say get a Eaton 7-speed that can handle 1,100 foot-pounds of torque, and you order it with a Cummins 8.2 liter motor that makes 300 horse and 1,000 foot-pounds of torque, the price difference for that combination can be $4,000 or $5,000. Now multiply that by 100 trucks, it's a very expensive proposition for the rental company, so they go with the cheaper version. Now, if you're going to try and take this over the road, you're going to struggle to get it to last long because you're running it at maximum RPM, and fuel consumption is going to be horrible. So the better combination is the higher horsepower, higher torque with the stronger transmission and gear ratios that allow you to be lower RPM while pushing that 70 mile an hour down the highway. It's a more expensive vehicle to purchase, and honestly it's harder to find on the open market. You might even be better off finding yourself a Class 8 truck with a sleeper and stretching it out to put a box truck on it. Now you're building yourself more like an expediter truck, and frankly you'll probably find better paying loads. If you're running as a solo driver, you could find expedited loads between like 300 and 500 miles and make really good per mile rates. That's kind of my thought on there. Connecticut, guys, you should go back through some of the older videos. I've been doing this now for several months, and every week I get multiple requests for markets, and you're not the only one in the market requesting. Trust me when I say I think almost every market has been covered. The other thing I need you to say is what city. And so here where someone's requesting Connecticut, what city are you looking for? Because the radius is going to be about 100 miles. And so, if I take a stab at it and choose a city and it's not the city you're looking for, you're going to be making another request next week saying, can you do this city? That's not the one I want. Okay, so the idea that you're wanting to do Aurora, Illinois, and do 2 box trucks. The problem with jumping in with 2 at once is you don't really know what the market's like yet. I wouldn't purchase 2 trucks only to find it's a bad market. I'd probably purchase one and see how you do. Honestly, if it's good, then you know, then the business itself should afford you to buy a second truck. So North Jersey and South Jersey, again, guys, if I do North Jersey, South Jersey is within 100 miles. And so the one will cover it all. I know I did Jersey just recently, and you can cover the entire state by covering just one, because I set the radius to 100 miles. Give me a city, Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky. Pick me a city name that's like smack dab in the middle, and if the three are within 100 miles, that should come up. The market for Sacramento, I just covered that market. Denver, I also just did probably about a week ago. Florida is just a horrible market. There's no other way to slice it. There's way too many trucks in that area, and the minute loads come out, people book them at the cheapest possible rate. If you think you can make money at, $1.30, $1.40 a mile one way and then deadhead back, that's what you're looking at in Florida. And that's even for semi trucks, guys. The full size power only loads, even there's no loads for people like me that bring their own trailer, because there's no manufacturers in Florida. So I wouldn't find loads leaving there. The power only loads are horrible. The team loads are horrible. If you look through the videos, I've covered Florida multiple times. People always, everybody wants to jump into the market in Florida, and it's the worst market. It's probably the worst market, honestly, in the country, because not only are you in a market that has a lot of carriers, a lot of these carriers take the cheapest rates. It's like they're starving, and whatever Amazon throws out, they're willing to take. And because Florida is isolated, being on a peninsula, you have no neighboring states other than Atlanta, and Atlanta is also a bad market. And so, yeah, it's horrible. What would I advise to do box truck versus semi truck? I own 20 power units. I've run 6 with Amazon, and I don't run any with Amazon anymore. I would not consider buying a box truck. It's just not enough revenue. It's way easier to keep a semi truck busy, booked, loaded, and running. I can do $8,000 to $12,000 in a week with a semi truck and have work for it every single day. A box truck on a really strong week, you'll do $5,000 to $7,000. But you need a real hustler of a driver, and you need to be in a really good market. Anyways, that about wraps it up for the comments, guys. Thanks for watching. Hope it was helpful and insightful for you.